In this Baldur's Gate 3 Sorcerer Class guide, I'm going to be covering the Sorcerer Class, including all 3 subclasses, and providing you some useful information. I'll be doing more build guides for Baldur's Gate 3, including Sorcerers, but for now, let's just look at how a Sorcerer functions and its basics. Sorcerers in BG3 are an offensive-minded spellcasting class that learns less spells than their wizard counterparts, but they can wield the spells they know more effectively thanks to their Metamagic class feature. Metamagic allows the sorcerer to change the properties of a spell, extending its reach, increasing its duration, or even making it cast again on a second target. While wizards have a broader range of spells they can cast, sorcerers are specialists in their chosen spells because of this feature. Sorcerers gain their magic from a magical source, unlike wizards who study arcane knowledge, and unlike warlocks who make a pact with a powerful being. This can be from their dragon blood, or it can be from a spontaneous occurrence, but they contain magic inside of them. Sorcerers have no armor proficiencies and almost no weapon proficiencies, making them terrible in martial combat if they don't multiclass or pick some of these up from a race. However, they do have proficiency in Constitution saving throws, which allows them to pass concentration saving throws more easily than other spellcasting classes. This is important if you like to cast spells that require concentration. In this section, we'll take a look at how to set up your sorcerer during character creation for best results. We'll begin with abilities first, since this is arguably the most important part aside from choosing your subclass. Your primary abilities as a sorcerer are Charisma and Constitution. Charisma determines how difficult it is for an enemy to save against your spells, improves spell attack rolls, and will improve dialogue checks. Constitution is there to help keep you alive via HP and also to help you maintain concentration on spells like Cloud of Daggers, Hypnotic Pattern, or Hold Person, should you get hit while concentrating on them. For this reason, I strongly recommend that you invest 16 in Charisma and 16 in Constitution during character creation. 14 Dexterity is also not bad to improve your initiative, which helps you take your turn sooner in combat, as well as provide some armor class. Note that I've changed these from the recommendations of the game as it more optimizes your character during the early goings. When it comes to race, Githyanki provides the sorcerer with medium armor proficiency, which they wouldn't otherwise get, as well as astral knowledge, allowing them to gain proficiency in one ability each rest. They will also gain Misty Step at level 5, which can help the sorcerer with positioning. Half-Elf is good for light armor and shield proficiency, as well as Fey Ancestry. They also gain Dark Vision, which can help land your spells in dark places. Human is also good for similar reasons, but they don't gain Fey Ancestry or Dark Vision, but you will gain an extra skill proficiency instead. Drow is also not a bad idea since you pick up Fairy Fire and Darkness as once per day casts at later levels, along with Superior Dark Vision, Perception Proficiency, and Fey Ancestry. And finally, Shield Dwarf can also work for light and medium armor proficiencies along with Dark Vision and Dwarven Resilience. For skills, you'll minimally want proficiency in Persuasion, Intimidation, and Deception since you should be handling the dialogue in your group if playing a sorcerer, unless you bring Will along. You can use your background to take Guild Artisan for Persuasion and Insight, and then select Intimidation and Deception for your skills. Moving on to the level progression of the Sorcerer. Level 1 is a huge level for sorcerers since they will select their subclass and gain a subclass feature that varies from each subclass. We'll cover what these do and what is unique about each in the subclass section, but for now let's look at what else they gain. Sorcerers will gain access to 4 cantrips and 2 level 1 spells at this level, along with 2 level 1 spell slots. Remember that sorcerers don't need to prepare their spells like wizards, so they can always cast any spell they know as long as they have the spell slot for its level. At level 2, sorcerers gain a resource called Sorcery Points that they can use to manipulate their spells in various ways using their Metamagic class feature. They will gain 2 Sorcery Points at this level, and they will gain 1 Sorcery Point per sorcerer level from this point onwards, for a total of 12 Sorcery Points at level 12. These replenish every long rest. Sorcerers will also be able to exchange Sorcery Points for a spell slot as a bonus action, with higher level spell slots costing more Sorcery Points. This means they can cast more spells in a single combat than all other spellcasters by converting Sorcery Points into additional spells. Note that you cannot convert Sorcery Points into level 6 spell slots. However, they can also convert a spell slot into Sorcery Points as a bonus action in order to manipulate another spell if they want as well. This gives them flexible casting as they can use their spell slots and Sorcery Points in whatever combination makes the most sense for the situation. Note that you cannot convert higher than level 4 spell slots for Sorcery Points. Also at this level, sorcerers will gain access to Metamagic, allowing them to manipulate their spells in various ways. This is a toggleable feature on the right-hand side of your action bar, and you simply toggle on what Metamagic you want to cast a spell with, and the Sorcery Points will be consumed automatically when you cast. It's automatically toggled off after casting, and you cannot select more than 1 Metamagic per spell. Sorcerers can select two choices from the following. Careful Spell. Allies automatically save against the spell. This is useful if you toss a harmful AoE spell into a group of enemies and friendlies mixed together, since your friendlies will automatically save against this spell. Distance Spell. Increases the range of a spell by 50% and also converts melee range spells into spells with 9-meter range. This is useful for when you cannot quite reach your target or targets and need a bit more range. Extended Spell. Doubles the duration of a spell. Useful for spells that only last 1 or 2 turns, allowing powerful effects to last even longer. Twin Spell. Allows a spell that targets only one character to target a second one. Useful for when you want to hit an additional enemy with a powerful effect or buff an additional friendly with a buff. At level 3, sorcerers gain access to level 2 spells and gain level 2 spell slots and can upcast level 1 spells with these slots if they can be. Many spells in BG3 can be upcast for additional damage or increased targets. Pay attention to which spells they are so you don't waste higher level spell slots on ones that can't be. Sorcerers will also be able to select another Metamagic at this level from the previous list as well as from 3 new additions. Heightened Spell. Targets have disadvantage on their saving throws against this spell. Useful for ensuring spells hit their targets and deal full damage. Quicken Spell. Allows a spell to be cast as a bonus action instead of an action. Useful for allowing you to cast multiple spells on the same turn. Subtle Spell. Allows you to cast said spell even when silenced. Useful against enemies that silence you, which normally prevents you from casting spells. Sorcerers gain 1 feat from the feat list at level 4. They can choose ability improvement, taking charisma to 18, which impacts dialogue and spell difficulty class. Sorcerers don't need resilient constitution like many other casters because they already have proficiency in constitution saves. Alert, though, is not a bad option to help you go sooner in combat, allowing you to wipe out enemies with deadly AoEs before they can even take a turn. At level 5, sorcerers gain access to level 3 spells and gain level 3 spell slots and can upcast level 1 and 2 spells with these slots if they can be. At level 6, all sorcerers gain another subclass feature based on the subclass they chose. We'll cover these in the subclass section, so we won't get into them here. At level 7, sorcerers gain access to level 4 spells and they gain level 4 spell slots and can upcast level 1, 2, and 3 spells with these slots if they can be. Sorcerers gain another feat from the feat list at level 8. Once again, ability improvement is a good choice for more charisma, or you can choose alert. Elemental Adept is not bad either if you plan to specialize in one damage type. At level 9, sorcerers gain access to level 5 spells and gain level 5 spell slots and can upcast level 1, 2, 3, and 4 spells with these slots if they can be. Sorcerers will select their final Metamagic at level 10 from the same list they got to select from at level 3. This gives them a total of 4 Metamagics. At level 11, sorcerers gain access to level 6 spells and gain 1 level 6 spell slot and can upcast level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 spells with this slot if it can be. This is the highest level of spells sorcerers can learn in Baldur's Gate 3. All sorcerers gain their final subclass feature based on the subclass they chose at this level as well. We'll cover what these are in the subclass section. And sorcerers gain their final feat from the feat list at level 12. They could choose ability improvement, taking charisma to 20 if they haven't already, or still take alert or elemental adept. And now we come to equipment. The equipment sorcerers use will vary greatly depending on what race you selected during character creation. They generally wear no armor, but since they can cast spells in any armor they have proficiency in, if you have light or medium armor proficiency from a race, you should definitely use that if you can. The exception here is if you're playing a Draconic Bloodline sorcerer that gains 13 armor class as a base when unarmored by default, so they may not need to use light or medium armor. However, sorcerers should use shields if they can, so if you have shield proficiency from human or half-elf, they should definitely use one to beef up their armor class. When it comes to weapons, it's not super important because sorcerers will likely cast cantrips when they don't want to use spell slots, not attack with weapons. However, look for something that gives you a spell you can use or perhaps some passive bonus to spellcasting. Next, let's move on to subclasses. Choosing a Sorcerer Subclass in BG3 comes down to a few factors. Do you mind random effects happening in your game world in exchange for more control over combat in general? Do you plan to wear armor from race or multiclass? Do you want increased mobility? And do you plan to focus on lightning or thunder spells? If yes to the first one, then wild magic is the way to go. If you plan to wear armor, Draconic Bloodline is less optimal since it has higher base armor class than the other subclasses. Both Draconic Bloodline and Storm Sorcery improve mobility, but Storm Sorcery does it much sooner, and Storm Sorcery is ideal if you plan to focus on thunder and lightning spells. All sorcerers in BG3 gain an initial subclass feature at level 1 when they select their subclass, and once again at level 6, and finally one last time at level 11. These subclass features are what distinguish Sorcerer subclasses from one another, though Storm Sorcery does gain more spells than the other two subclasses. Let's have a look at Wild Magic first. At level 1, Wild Magic Sorcerers gain the Wild Magic class feature, which gives them a chance to trigger a Wild Magic Surge when casting a level 1 spell or higher, essentially any spell that consumes a spell slot. Wild Magic Surges have random effects, and some of these are great, like gaining the effects of Shield, and some of them are not, like turning into a sheep. Currently, the chance to trigger a Wild Magic Surge is 5% per level 1 or higher spell cast. Note that Barbarians also have this subclass, except they trigger Wild Magic every time they rage, and there is no chance involved. Tides of Chaos is another subclass feature Wild Magic Sorcerers gain at this level, and it allows them to gain advantage on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw once per short or long rest. Most Sorcerers won't be using weapons to make attack rolls, however many cantrips make attack rolls. These include Firebolt, Ray of Frost, Shocking Grasp, and Bone Chill. All of these spells can trigger Tides of Chaos along with Scorching Ray, so if you want to use Tides of Chaos on an attack roll, these are the best spells to use with it. Otherwise, you'll use it defensively or outside of combat entirely. Once you've used Tides of Chaos, the next spell that you cast that uses spell slots will have a much higher chance to trigger a Wild Magic Surge. Currently, the chance to trigger a Wild Magic Surge after using Tides of Chaos is about 45%. This means the more you use Tides of Chaos, the more unexpected things will happen when you cast spells using spell slots. So, expect the unexpected if you're using this class feature, which you should, since it's a good one. Make sure you set up Tides of Chaos under your reactions to On and Ask so that you're prompted in combat when you'll miss an attack roll or fail a save, so you can use this if needed. At level 6, Wild Magic Sorcerers are able to Bend Luck. This subclass feature allows them to consume 2 sorcery points and use a reaction to add or subtract 1d4 from any creature's attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. This means you can use this offensively or defensively, whichever is needed, giving Wild Magic Sorcerers the power to change outcomes in combat. Note that Bend Luck can only be used once per turn as long as you have sorcery points and is not a once per short or long rest feature. Additionally, it does not increase the chances of Wild Magic Surge triggering. At level 11, Wild Magic Sorcerers can sometimes cause opposing magic users to trigger Wild Magic Surges when those characters cast their own spells. Next up is Draconic Bloodline. At level 1, Draconic Bloodline Sorcerers gain 1 HP, increasing by an additional 1 HP per Sorcerer level taken, and also improve their armor class to 13 when not wearing armor. This makes them a bit tankier than other Sorcerers and is a good choice if you're worried about your Sorcerer being too squishy. Note that Draconic Resilience's increase to armor class does not stack with unarmored defense of the Barbarian among classes and does not stack with the Mage Armor spell. Also at this level, Draconic Bloodline Sorcerers will get to choose a Dragon Ancestor that affects their appearance, but also allows them to learn one spell based on their choice, and also a damage type they will gain Elemental Affinity with at level 6. At level 6, as I just mentioned, Draconic Bloodline Sorcerers will gain Elemental Affinity with the damage type of their Dragon Ancestor, allowing them to add their Charisma modifier to the damage of spells cast that deal its type of damage. Additionally, as a reaction, they can spend 1 sorcery point to give themselves resistance to that damage type until their next long rest. Make sure you set this to Ask in reaction so that you can use this feature effectively. At level 11, Draconic Bloodline Sorcerers can use Fly, allowing them to move much further than they would normally, and allowing them to go up or down in elevation. This allows them to have ideal positioning, helping for proper spell placement. And next is Storm Sorcery. At level 1, Storm Sorcery Sorcerers can use Fly as a bonus action without taking any attacks of opportunity if they cast a level 1 or higher spell. This helps with their mobility and allows them to get out of dangerous situations rather easily where they might be engaged with a hard-to-kill enemy or possibly surrounded. At level 6, Storm Sorcery Sorcerers gain resistance to lightning and thunder damage, cutting it in half. Additionally, whenever they cast a level 1 spell or higher that deals lightning or thunder damage, they will deal damage in a small AoE around them, equal to 1/2 their sorcerer level, rounded down. Make sure to set this up under your reaction so you can use this efficiently. Storm Sorcery Sorcerers also learn 5 spells automatically at this level, and these are Call Lightning, Sleet Storm, Gust of Wind, Create or Destroy Water, and Thunder Wave. If you've previously learned Sleet Storm, Gust of Wind, or Thunder Wave, I strongly suggest that you replace these with other spells so that you can know more. Additionally, note that enemies that have been doused with Create Water will be vulnerable to lightning and cold damage, meaning that you will deal double the damage to them. And at level 11, Storm Sorcery Sorcerers deal lightning damage to melee attackers that strike them equal to their sorcerer level. This is nice, but ideally you wouldn't be getting hit by melee units. In this section of our Baldur's Gate 3 Sorcerer Class Guide, we'll take a look at multi-classing a Sorcerer in BG3 and what other classes you might multi-class with. Keep in mind this is not a complete list, but rather helpful suggestions that make good pairings. The first most likely place a sorcerer might multiclass is after level 1, though it might not seem like it. Sorcerers gain their first subclass bonus at this level, and they are all quite strong. Tides of Chaos, for example, could be great on a Bard, Paladin, or Warlock that uses traditional attacks or Eldritch Blast, giving them advantage when they need it. And Tempestuous Magic gives you Fly as a bonus action whenever you cast a level 1 spell or higher, which is great. This is on top of the Constitution proficiency that Sorcerers have that help with concentration saving throws. The next most likely place for them to multiclass is level 3 if they don't at level 1, because they'll have 3 sorcery points and 3 metamagic choices at this level, along with level 2 spell slots. The best metamagics cost 3 sorcery points, so you can't even use these if you don't go at least level 3. If you don't multiclass at level 3, the next place you might is level 6, and sorcerers gain another subclass feature at this level, and again they are quite good. For instance, Storm Sorcery picks up 5 spells and Heart of the Storm here. Bend Luck is also really good if you went Wild Mage, and you can use it up to 3 times before Long Rest. And lastly, if you don't multiclass there, you will likely go 11 levels of Sorcerer in order to pick up another metamagic, more sorcery points, a level 6 spell, and a final subclass feature. This leaves 1 level for picking up some proficiencies from other classes. Paladins, Bards, and Warlocks all multiclass exceptionally well with Sorcerers due to Charisma being their spellcasting ability as well. However, you can mix and match with some martial classes as well to pick up some features and proficiencies. 6 levels of Paladin and 6 levels of Sorcerer gives you Divine Smite, Heavy Armor if you went Paladin first, or Constitution Proficiency if you went Paladin second. You also gain extra attack, Aura of Protection, and Heart of the Storm, Bend Luck, or Elemental Affinity, and tons of spell slots for your Divine Smite, though you would miss out on higher level spells. 1 level of Wild Magic Sorcerer and 11 levels of College of Lord Bard gives you Constitution Proficiency and Tides of Chaos, which you can use to help manipulate combat. Pair this with a College of Lore Bard that has Cutting Words, allows you to absolutely control everything. Or you could go 6 and 6 and get Bend Luck as well, giving you even more control, the only downside being Wild Magic. 3 levels of Warlock and 9 levels of Sorcerer will get you a ton of spells, 2 Pact Magic spell slots, your Pact Boon, and access to Eldritch Blast, and 2 Invocations, which you can use to buff it, on top of all other Sorcerer features and spells. Remember that Eldritch Blast increases beams with character level, not class level, so this makes it a great pairing. Since martial classes have no real reason to pick up Sorcerer as a second class, since they typically won't have high enough charisma for spellcasting, you usually take mostly Sorcerer levels when multiclassing with them, dipping a level or 2 into martial classes to gain something useful like armor proficiencies or other class features. For instance, you could take 11 levels of Storm Sorcery Sorcerer and 1 Tempest Cleric for heavy armor proficiency. Tempest Cleric also gives you a reaction that deals lightning or thunder damage once per turn, so it's a great fit for Storm Sorcery Sorcerers. And that's on top of the Thunderwave and Fog spells they get for free. If you end up taking 2 levels of Tempest Cleric and 10 Storm Sorcery, you can make 1 lightning or thunder damage spell deal maximum damage once per short rest, which can be devastating with the right spells. 10 levels of Sorcerer and 2 levels of Fighter gives you Action Surge as well as an additional armor class from Defense Fighting Style if you take it, and a lot of proficiencies. Being able to cast 3 spells in a given turn can be absolutely deadly. And you can accomplish this by using Quicken Spell on 1 spell and then casting 2 other spells with the 2 actions you'll have. You can take Fighter first if you want, since it has Constitution Proficiency as well. That way you end up with Heavy Armor Proficiency if you would prefer. So that wraps up our Sorcerer class guide. I hope you found it informative and useful, and I hope it explained to you the way that Sorcerers play in BG3. And as always, if you have other tips about Sorcerer, please leave them in the comments for new players. And if you have questions, leave them as well, and I will try and answer them as fast as I can.